He doesn't look back, not once. He has been told the cameras want him to. He has been told the world is watching. There are photographers on both sides of the bridge and a Soviet TV crew recording every step, and an entire army of officials waiting for him to give them a single backward glance, one moment they can use, one image of a soldier saying goodbye to the country he just left. He refuses. He is 40 years old. The bridge under his boots is gray steel, 960 yards long, painted with a thin red flag. A flag-draped armored personnel carrier idles 50 yards behind him. A boy, 14 years old, is running toward him with a bouquet of carnations. His name is Boris Gromov. He is the last Soviet soldier to leave Afghanistan, and the war his army just lost is about to take down the Soviet Union with it. Let's go back to where this started. Not to the bridge, to a sick old man in a room in Moscow 10 years earlier, signing a piece of paper he barely read. The Soviet Union in 1979 was the second superpower on Earth. 5 million men under arms, 50,000 tanks. The army that had broken the Wehrmacht at Stalingrad. The empire that ran from East Berlin to Vladivostok. And at the top of it sat Leonid Brezhnev, General Secretary of the Communist Party for 15 years, and, by December of 1979, a wreck. 73 years old, a failing heart, a brain dimmed by sedatives. He read official memos through aides because he could no longer concentrate long enough to read them himself. He fell asleep in Politburo meetings. He signed what was placed in front of him. The men who placed things in front of him were three. KGB Chairman Yuri Andropov, the spy master who would soon succeed him. Defense Minister Dmitry Ustinov, the marshal who built the Red Army's machine. Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko, the diplomat known across the world as Mr. No. This was the Troika. And what they wanted in the autumn of 1979 was Afghanistan. Afghanistan in 1979 was a country eating itself. The year before, a Marxist coup, the Sour Revolution, had brought the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan to power in Kabul. Within months, they were forcing collectivization on tribes that had never heard of collectivization, building schools for girls in valleys where girls did not leave their fathers' houses, redistributing land at gunpoint. The countryside detonated. By the autumn of 1979, the communists held the capital and almost nothing else. Then their leader, Hafizullah Amin, strangled his predecessor with pillows and took the chair himself. Moscow watched. And Moscow decided, Andropov first, Ustinov next, Gromyko shrugging into agreement, that Amin was unstable, paranoid, possibly opening back channels to the Americans. He had to be replaced. Not negotiated with, replaced. The decision memo is one of the most chilling documents the Cold War produced. On the situation in A. December 12, 1979. Handwritten by Konstantin Chernenko, not typed, because not even the Kremlin's typists were allowed to see it. Brezhnev signed first. Andropov, Ustinov, Gromyko signed below him. The rest of the Politburo signed diagonally across the page. There was no debate. The plan was simple. The 40th Army would cross the Amu Darya River. KGB Special Forces would seize Kabul, kill Amin, install a new communist who took orders. The army would stabilize the country, be home by spring. Inside the Politburo, there was a phrase used to describe how long the operation would last. A few weeks, possibly months. The 40th Army would still be in Afghanistan a decade later. Storm 333, the flash of the opening hand. The 27th of December, 1979, 7 o'clock in the evening, Kabul. The Tajbeg Palace sits on a low hill on the southern edge of the city. 3 stories, white stone, walled gardens. Hafizullah Amin has moved here with his family on the personal recommendation of his Soviet security advisors. They have told him it is safer than the city center. He is dying anyway, although he does not know it yet. 11 days earlier, his Soviet-trained cook prepared his lunch. Within an hour, he was vomiting. He thought it was food poisoning. It was the KGB. He is recovering, slowly, on the second floor of the Tajbeg when the lights go out. Outside, 55 operators in Afghan uniforms, the Gram and Zenit units of the KGB, are already inside the perimeter. Soviet airborne troops are seizing the airport, the radio station, the Ministry of Defense, 20 key sites across Kabul. The whole thing is called Operation Storm 333, and it is part of a larger plan called Operation Baikal 79, and it is going to be in every Soviet textbook for the next decade as a masterpiece. Inside the palace, gunfire. The Afghan guards fight back hard. Soviet operators die on the staircases. Grenades are thrown into rooms with women and children. Amin's 7-year-old son is killed in the chaos. Amin himself, in his pajamas, semi-conscious, is led into a corridor by an aide. Soviet voices are shouting in Russian 1 floor below. He turns to the aide. "The Soviets will help us," he says. The aide tells him that it is the Soviets who are attacking. Amin shakes his head. "It is a lie," he says. A few minutes later, he is dead. By midnight, the flag of the People's Democratic Republic of Afghanistan flies above the Tajbeg Palace. Babrak Karmal, the Soviets' chosen replacement, is on Radio Kabul reading a script written for him in Moscow. Andropov, in his office on Lubyanka Square, is reportedly seen smiling for the first time in months. On paper, the operation is a masterpiece. They don't know yet that the masterpiece is the easy part. The Panjshir, where the lion is waiting. Northeast of Kabul, 90 miles up the Hindu Kush, there is a valley. It is called the Panjshir, 5 lions. It runs 150 kilometers into the mountains. There is one road in. The walls climb to 15,000 feet on both sides. From the air, it looks like a knife cut across a body. Living in this valley in 1980 is a 26-year-old engineering student. His name is Ahmad Shah Massoud. He grew up in the Panjshir. His father was a colonel in the Royal Afghan Army. He went to school at the Lycée Istiklal in Kabul, learned French. He read Mao Zedong on guerrilla warfare. He read Charles de Gaulle on national resistance. He led his first failed uprising against the government when he was 22. By the time the Soviets arrive, Massoud has a 4-phase plan written down that he expects to take a decade. Phase 1, build a popular base. Phase 2, defend the Panjshir while striking outside it. Phase 3, move from defense to strategic offensive across the north. Phase 4, bring down the communist government in Kabul. This is not how guerrilla commanders think. This is how generals think. And the Soviets, who are about to send the most mechanized counterinsurgency force in history into Massoud's valley, do not yet understand that they are not fighting a tribesman with a rifle. They are fighting a strategist. The Soviet doctrine in the Panjshir is straightforward. Armored columns up the road. Helicopter assaults onto the high ground. Mi-24 Hind gunships. Flying tanks. 4 tons of armor, 4 tons of weapons, patrolling above. Burn the villages, poison the wells, drive the population out, take the valley. Massoud's doctrine is the opposite. The villagers leave on his order before the Soviets arrive. His fighters disappear into the side valleys. The convoys come up the road and find nothing. They occupy empty stone houses. They run out of fuel. They take fire from the cliffs at night. They withdraw. And when they withdraw, his fighters drift back down out of the mountains and reoccupy what was theirs to begin with. 9 times. Between 1980 and 1985, the Soviets launched 9 major offensives into the Panjshir. 9. Each one is reported in Pravda as a victory. Each one ends with the Soviets pulling back to Kabul. Each one ends with Massoud rebuilding what they burned. In 1984, the Soviets try something different. They offer a ceasefire. Massoud takes it and uses it to do exactly what they fear most. He professionalizes. He creates the Shura-e-Nazar, the supervisory council, that will eventually unite 130 commanders from 12 provinces. He sets up courts. He sets up tax collection. He runs the Panjshir like a state, because in his mind it already is one. The Soviets call this their pause. He calls it Phase 2. They are not fighting the same war. The Salang Tunnel, the mountain swallows them. The Hindu Kush is a wall, 20,000 feet at its peaks. To move troops and fuel and ammunition from the Soviet border down to Kabul, the Red Army needs a way through that wall. In the 1960s, in the years of friendship between Moscow and Kabul, before any of this, Soviet engineers had built one. The Salang Tunnel, 1.7 miles long, 11,000 feet above sea level. The longest road tunnel in the world at the time. It was the empire's gift to Afghanistan. By 1982, it is the spine of the Soviet supply line. Every drop of fuel, every shell, every loaf of bread for the 80,000 troops south of the mountains comes through the Salang. The 3rd of November, 1982. A Soviet fuel tanker, climbing toward the tunnel's southern entrance, collides with a military truck inside. The lights flicker. The engines stall. Drivers panic. The tunnel, in fear of Mujahideen attack, has been redesigned with thick steel doors that can be sealed at either end. Someone, somewhere, gives the wrong order. The doors close. What happens in the next 40 minutes, in the dark, the Soviet government will officially deny for years. The diesel from the wrecked tanker catches. The ventilation systems are inadequate. Carbon monoxide pools in the lower levels. Convoy vehicles run their engines, trying to push through, and the engines consume the oxygen. The official Soviet figure, when it is finally admitted, is 176 dead. Western intelligence, Mujahideen sources, Afghan refugee testimony, all converge on a different number. Around 700 Soviet soldiers. Between 1,500 and 2,000 Afghan civilians. Buried under 200 meters of granite in a tunnel the Soviets had built themselves. The empire's gift to Afghanistan, 20 years later, swallowed its own. Stinger, the day the helicopter falls. The 25th of September, 1986. A hillside outside Jalalabad, near the Pakistani border. A small group of fighters from Hezb-e-Islami, one of the 7 Sunni Mujahideen factions based across the border in Peshawar. They have been moving north all morning, and now they wait. Among them, a man known by the alias Engineer Ghaffar. He has been to Pakistan and from Pakistan to a CIA training camp and back again. On his shoulder, in a long green tube, is something that has not, until today, been fired in combat in Afghanistan. The Americans call it the FIM-92 Stinger. For 7 years, the Soviet Mi-24 Hind has owned the Afghan sky. Pilots called it the flying tank. Armored underbelly, twin-barrel cannon in the nose, rocket pods on the stub wings. It could climb to 11,000 feet and rake a hillside in passes that lasted 3 seconds. The Mujahideen had nothing that could touch it. What the Stinger does is simple. It locks onto the heat of an aircraft engine. It flies at 1,000 meters a second. It hits before the pilots have time to register the warning. And on this hillside, on this morning, it hits an Mi-24 in level flight. The Hind explodes in mid-air. By the end of 1986, the Mujahideen have shot down 23 Soviet aircraft. By the end of the war, the figure is closer to 270. The arithmetic of empire is brutal and quiet. When your air force can no longer fly, your army cannot move. Hill 3234, the last set piece. January 1988. Mikhail Gorbachev, General Secretary now for almost 3 years, has stood in front of the 27th Party Congress and called Afghanistan a bleeding wound. The negotiations are public. The Geneva Accords are in their final draft. Every Soviet soldier in Afghanistan knows, by January 1988, that they are going home in a year. And yet, there is one more operation. Magistral. Clear the road to coast in the southeast. show that Soviet forces can still move freely, even on the way out. On the 7th of January, 1988, 39 paratroopers of the 9th Company, 345th Independent Guards Airborne Regiment, are airlifted onto a hilltop at 3,234 meters above sea level. Hill 3234. That is the hill's name. That is all. They are 19 years old, 20. A few are 21. They are conscripts, drafted from Russia and Ukraine and Belarus and Central Asia. They were trained for the European war that never came. They are in Afghanistan because the state told them to be there. That night, hundreds of Mujahideen fighters, well supplied, well led, possibly with foreign advisors, climbed the hill in the dark. The first wave hits at 3:30 in the afternoon. 9 more waves come through the night. Junior Sergeant Vyacheslav Alexandrov is 19 years old. He has a heavy machine gun. The gun's position is overrun. Alexandrov sees what is coming. He turns to the men on either side of him and tells them, in plain Russian, words his comrades will repeat to investigators in the days that follow. "Get out. I'll cover you." He kills several attackers before he dies on the gun. An hour later, Andrei Melnikov, also 19, takes the same position and does the same thing. He fights until he is hit by grenade fragments. He fights through it. When his comrades reach him in the morning, he is already gone. The hill holds. When the relief column reaches the summit at dawn, 6 paratroopers are dead. 28 are wounded. Of the original 39, only 5 are still on their feet. Outside the perimeter, in the rocks and scree below, are bodies of Mujahideen fighters the Soviets count to over 100. The Mujahideen, in their own custom, take their dead with them when they retreat. The real number was probably higher. Alexandrov and Melnikov are posthumously named heroes of the Soviet Union. The other paratroopers receive the Order of the Red Banner and the Order of the Red Star. 6 families fold a Soviet flag. And the war was already over. They just hadn't told the boys on the hill yet. The 15th of February, 1989, the Friendship Bridge, Termez, the northern bank of the Amu Darya River. This is where we started. Boris Gromov, commander of the 40th Army, walks across that bridge at funeral pace. The flag-draped APC is behind him. His son Maxim, 14 years old, is running across the steel toward him with a bouquet of carnations. The Soviet press is filming everything. The Western press is filming everything. He does not turn around. When a Soviet reporter asks him, hours later, what he was thinking on the bridge, Gromov says, and Soviet television broadcasts it that night, "I did not look back, not once. There was no one behind me." The arithmetic of what walked off that bridge: 620,000 Soviet soldiers had cycled through Afghanistan in 9 years. 15,000 had not come home. 50,000 and more were wounded. Many more were broken in ways the Soviet medical establishment did not have the language for. The doctors called it Afghan syndrome. The veterans called it nothing at all. There was no welcome parade. There was no plaque in the village square. The state that had sent them did not, in any honest sense, exist anymore. On the other side of the bridge, the country they left behind. 1 million Afghan dead by the lowest estimates, 2 million by the highest, 5 million driven out as refugees, a third of the population on the road, 2 million more displaced inside their own borders. By the late 1980s, half of every refugee on Earth was Afghan. 2 years and 10 months after Boris Gromov walked across the Friendship Bridge, the Soviet Union dissolved. That is not a coincidence. The men who came home, the Afghansi, came home angry and broken and certain that they had been sent to die for nothing. The economic cost of the war helped break a Soviet treasury already failing. The moral cost broke something deeper. The empire that had told its people for 70 years that it could not be defeated had been defeated. Not by NATO, not by the Americans, by farmers in sandals. In mountains the empire could not even map. In Afghanistan itself, the war did not end. The Mujahideen factions Massoud had spent a decade trying to organize turned on each other within years. The Lion of Panjshir was assassinated by two al-Qaeda operatives posing as journalists on the 9th of September, 2001, 2 days before the Twin Towers fell. The Americans arrived a month later to fight the same mountain the Soviets had walked away from. They stayed 20 years. They left from a different airfield. They left in a hurry. And in the days after they left, more than one Soviet veteran, interviewed in Moscow, asked what he thought of the American withdrawal, said the same thing in different words. We tried to tell them. The Soviets called Afghanistan a limited contingent. What they limited was their own time on Earth. The empire that beat Hitler could not beat farmers in sandals, and within 3 years of walking off that bridge, the empire was gone. He never looked back.